Hello, everyone. Please be seated. We are starting. Please, please, please. Please. Please be
Hi
seated,
everyone.
everyone.
Please can you all
Please be seated. Please be seated.
At 251.
It has to, because there are other things that we have to do. No, but I am ended. He has to end it. 250.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we're gonna do panel first. Mhm.
But whatever it is, it's 250.
Okay, perfect.
350, right? 350.
350, 350. Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone. Can you please be seated? We're about to start with the panel. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So, hi, my name is Shurabe Mercado, and we're here with our awesome panelist and presenter for the session on education and educating on leveraging technology to address digital inequality and digital divide, which I am really excited for. Which well, this panel will focus on the critical issue of digital inequality and the digital divide, exploring how education and technology can be harnessed to bridge these gaps. As digital connectivity becomes increasingly vital for accessing education, employment, and essential services, it is imperative to ensure equitable access to technology for all. We now live in a modern um, day. So it's important that we face our technological advances and progress. So for this discussion will cover strategies of providing digital literacy, expanding internet access, and creating inclusive technological solutions that will cater to underserved communities. By highlighting successful programs, experiences, policies, the panel will aim to inspire collaborative efforts to eliminate these digital barriers and promote a more inclusive digital future. Just to introduce our panelists today as well, let me just give them, because I don't need any introductions anymore. I'm just going to give it up for the panelists right now. So, firstly, starting with Mona. Mona Cho is the founder of those digital online safety and empowerment initiatives. She's approaching to combating technology facilitated gender based violence, which address pressing issues such as the unchecked development of AI that will prioritize an intersectional understanding of gender equality. As part of her grassroots efforts, Mona raises awareness in her community on how to reclaim their power online, where social media, big tech, and AI pose an imminent threat to her generation's health and safety. Mona's top down efforts include speaking engagements for policy development with the White House, federal agencies, and state organizations. As Mona has been honored by Dr. Biden at the Girls Leading Change celebrations for fostering resilience and awareness of online harassment and abuse. So give it up for Mona. Thank you. And here with us, we also have David J. Whelan, who has a devoted devoted his career to building successful businesses from a strategic, operational, financial, and human capital standpoints. He is based in Los Angeles for nearly 25 years, and he works with organizations and entrepreneurs across the country and around the world. Through his consultancy, Bespoke Strategy, and working across multiple industry, he has a passion for the intersection of technology, health, and wellness, with an emphasis on business and organizational strategy. Most recently, he has served as the first permanent chief executive officer of Bioscience LA, the nonprofit innovation catalyst for life sciences in the greater Los Angeles region. And he was an integral part of the creation of New York Genome Center, where he has served as chief strategy officer. And he has launched one of the first fitness tracking wearables with 24-hour fitness. He holds an MBA with honors from the UCLA Anderson School and a BS in Symbolic Systems from Stanford University. He remains very involved in alumni activities with both schools, and he also studied at the London Business School and Carnegie Mellon University. He has held a top secret security clearance. So it was important. So thank you so much for being here. Give it up for the panel. Um, so we're gonna get and jump right into the questions. First, panelists, what innovative educational strategies can be implemented to enhance digital literacy and bridge the digital divide, particularly in underserved communities and marginalized regions?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Okay, there we go. I think when I first heard you say this question, the immediate thing what I think about when I think of digital divide is definitely the gender digital divide. I work with young women across the world, mainly in Africa, about technology facilitate gender-based violence and young women's experiences with technology. And a lot of the times when I work with these women, the main things that they tell me is that they feel they are socially not encouraged to participate in digital literacy programs or participate in existing literacy skills and technology programs that are available because in many situations and in many countries, people think that, and families especially think that technology and jobs that have to do with tech are more suitable for boys and men. And so although there are certain resources for women, it's societally discouraged for these young girls who want to pursue these technological careers and have these technological skills. And so that's the main thing when I think of digital divide. And going off of that, when it comes to how educational institutions can support these women and these people in general, oh, sorry. Is that okay? Okay, sorry. So really challenging the gender bias within providing technological skills and literacy programs. So for example, through the UN, I've interviewed Raphael Rafan. She's the policy director at UN Women in New York. And one of the things she told me was at UN Women, when they work to integrate these digital literacy programs in lower developed countries, the most key aspect is to encourage the girls and encourage the women to want to participate in these programs and that they belong there, I think is the most important thing. So continuing that effort, I think will really help narrow down the divide.
Got it. No, that's great lead in, and I'll take a different perspective on that. I do a lot of work in the healthcare world, and my role, kind of my commitment is how do we leverage technology to help improve access, equity, quality of healthcare around the world. And what I've seen over my career is that so far the more technology that we integrate, the more those divides do exist. And there are definitely the gender divides that Mona mentioned. There are socioeconomic divides, there's age divides, and we all saw a lot of this during pandemic. And everyone has their own pandemic stories, but I think you all either directly experienced or know someone who experienced. We were trying to deal with telemedicine and remote testing, at-home testing. We were dealing with the confusion of information around what was going on, and all of those were huge opportunities for technology. And we did start to make some strides where better tech was available at home. But what this really comes down to are some fundamental questions around just access to technology. It is and it's not just computers, which we maybe take for granted, but it's access to broadband. And so here in America, there's a big chunk of the population that doesn't have access to broadband. Rural America is not served by broadband. We've got people around the world on this, and there's lack of wired broadband in lots of places in the world. On the flip side, and I actually talk about this a lot recently. In the U.S., we have a lot of healthcare challenges with our healthcare systems, but we've got generally have pretty good healthcare, but we have uneven technology. And then you go to a place like Africa, where there's not necessarily amazing healthcare, but there's actually incredible access to mobile technology. So in the US, we're struggling to connect people from a healthcare standpoint, using smartphones. And in Africa, there are the penetration of smartphones and kind of the use of smartphones for everything is much greater because the landline systems are not there. And so wrapping this up, there's really an opportunity for all of us, but in particular the next generation, to think about not just how do we build better technology, but how do we make sure that technology is available to everyone, that it's accessible to everyone, and then most importantly, we're communicating and collaborating in a way where we can actually use this to help each other, whether it's across gender lines, across racial lines, across age lines. And again, it's important for healthcare because the better technology we have, the most needed population for healthcare tends to be our aging population. And I'm not going to stereotype too much, but the least technology literate is almost always the aging population. And so we need to make sure that we understand how to help those populations.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm not going to take a lot of time on the remarks, so I'm gonna proceed with the next question so that you have more time of your experience so that you can share to the people that are here and the people watching online. So my next question would be more about what role can youth play in addressing digital inequality, and how can they be empowered and supported to lead initiatives that will promote digital inclusion in their communities. With the context that many people that are joining also online come from remote communities. Mainly, we have a lot of African people out there from the global south. We have a great audience from those regions. So if you can share some advice, share some examples and some experience from your side, so that they can get a better idea on how does youth plays this role, and how can we be empowered. Thank you.
Yeah, I could take this one first. Just going into my background of how I got into activism, how I started my advocacy work as a digital justice and gender equality activist, it all really stemmed from my personal experiences with technology, especially during COVID. Not to excuse that like this wouldn't have happened had like there not been COVID, but COVID definitely exacerbated the problems of facing online harassment. My friend experienced revenge pornography, which is when your nudes are shared unconsensually. And so going through my personal experiences with tech and how it has impacted me and the other young people in my life is really what drove me to want to make a change, but also just want to talk about it and extend the dialogue about, hey, like this is happening to me, like I'm addicted. I feel so addicted to social media. I can't get off my phone. Or someone like my friend was when like I was 12, and she got her nudes leaked without her consent. And so at the time, I didn't know that that is a crime. I didn't know, to us that's just what happens, and it sucked, but it wasn't until I grew older and older that I realized that this is a form of abuse and a form of violence. And so growing into my activism journey, it really took talking to other young people about the personal feelings that I had and about the personal experiences that I had is what drove, oh, like you feel this way too? Like this is what I'm experiencing. Oh, it looks like so many like thousands of millions of teens around the world, regardless of where you are in your access to technology, seem to be facing the same things. And so through that is what really drove me to say, okay, so what can I do to maybe help my like local county and local city? And I started volunteering at my local public health agency, and that was like my start of just talking to the adults in the room, even though I only had my personal experiences. I wasn't researched at the time, but just sharing my voice and going to people who would listen to me was the biggest thing. And I've faced several times in my journey where like adults just don't listen. And it's really easy for adults to kind of like brush over what you're saying if you're a young person, because it's kind of that default role that adults know more. And when really, especially when it comes to technology, young people are the digital natives. We are the ones who understand what it's like to be manipulated by this tech, what it's like to be growing up with it in your back pocket, or yeah. And so like youth voices are super critical, and just being able to go to people who will listen to you and just keep like, for me, like I feel like it took me to just keep reaching out to people, keep just extending the dialogue. Anytime I would meet someone, I would bring it up, and anyone who would listen to me, I would just try and grab their attention and keep extending that dialogue. And through building through that is what really helped me meet new people who would like continue to listen to me and help listen to my ideas about how I want to solve this problem. And so like through experiencing adultism and through experiencing adults who won't listen to me, which I'm sure you can relate a lot to, Shurabe, just as a young person, especially as a young woman, like feeling like you can't be heard and feeling like your voice isn't heard is a super common thread among a lot of the youth activists that I meet. And regardless of the topic, climate change, social justice, literally anything, that's the common thread that I see amongst my peers who are trying to raise their voice about an issue that they are passionate about. So I think my advice would be just to keep reaching out and keep talking to people, because clearly like the people in this room, there are people that will listen and there are people that will hear you. It's just about having the tenacity to keep going and keep reaching out.
Yes, completely. Thank you so much for that. I do resonate a lot with the part of adult centrism. We do fight a lot, we face a lot of barriers. And I mentioned it yesterday, but to uh, highlight and spotlight that age is not a barrier, and your experience, your expertise shouldn't also be a limitation if you want to participate in these spaces, and if you want to act and for your solutions, for your entrepreneurship, your actions, your activities to be taken into account, right? Thank you so much, David.
Yeah, just I'll keep it brief, but your remarks were great. And as I was thinking about this, as sometimes I still put myself back in my head of when I was a teenager, when I was younger, and first of all, I love the fact that even though tech can be used in these negative ways, it also makes it so much easier to connect people, bring voices together, allow people to collaborate, share these experiences. The fact that we're even doing this event and there's thousands of people around the world who are on it. I never even imagined being able to do that when I was when I was a teenager. But I think that what you're seeing and kind of rebuilding with with your peers is kind of what happens with every cycle. So we've got we have the historical societal systems. We've got the kind of I'll call it the incumbent technology or the incumbent processes and organizations that are run by the current the current adults. I guess I'll put myself in that category. And then we've got the and then we have the the youth of the world who are both facing these systems, figuring out how to leverage them, and over time figuring out how to how to break them and rebuild them in a better way. And so I think that kind of my thoughts about that are just leverage technology to find people, to find your passions, to find commonalities, common goals, people who can support you, and use that in a way to make things better. And you just keep on doing it, and that's what gets adults, that's what gets the government, what gets the systems to listen. Because ultimately I think we all realize that we're all part of the bigger system, and we all realize that once upon a time we were doing the same thing. And so I hope everyone can find encouragement in knowing that there's going to be allies and advocates there of all ages, and over time there's the ability to to really make a difference.
Just thank you so much. Oh my God, this is so inspiring and everything is so motivating. I hope that the people here and the people listening are also resonating and echoing what you're mentioning, for what it's completely true. So for the next question, before we go into a little Q&A, if possible, now we come from really strong institutional systems too, right? From our universities, from the schools. So my question here is, how can these educational institutions integrate technology, integrate not only technology, but the social context, the community needs into the curricula to ensure that to ensure that all students, and especially those that come from disadvantaged backgrounds, are equipped with the necessary digital skills, the necessary knowledge, and that's relevant.
Yeah, that's actually like a really great question. Like I feel like so many aspects packed into one question, and it's so rich. I think the main thing when I think of this question is how like digital inequality is also not just lack of access to tech, but lack of understanding of the harms that tech can pose. That was a huge thing that I felt um, through my personal experience and through like getting into my activism journey of learning about online abuse, learning about how tech is used to harm other people and to harm groups of people. So when it comes to taking that idea and implementing that into educational institutions, making sure that not only we are integrating the technology, but integrating the knowledge and the education about what online harms are. And because it doesn't matter whether if you have tech or not, you can still be impacted by online harms and on like online hate and tech facilitated gender just violence in general. I remember like recently I did a virtual workshop with a women's group in Malawi, and we talked about the weaponization of AI against women and girls. And the main thing that I took away from that is regardless of the like differences in scale of technology, we all resonated with the same feelings of they all either told me that they had known someone who was a victim of or and survivor of AI deepfake pornography, sextortion. There are so many other like digital forms of abuse that can happen regardless of if you are actively online or not. And so I think that is so important to integrate those kinds of skills and integrate that kind of knowledge into education, because everyone, regardless of what your access to technology is, deserves to know what these harms are, what to do if you face them, and how to receive help. That's like so important to me, and that resonates with me really personally in the work that I do. But the reason why I bring it up is because it's universal, regardless of who you are, how old you are, if you have technology or if you have access to technology or not, you can still face online harm. So integrating into schools, into education, into universities, what these harms are and how to like go about being online with them is, I think, most important.
That's completely true. Dave?
Yeah, so I think about that from this. We are here on the UCLA campus. Number one public university in the U.S. and UCLA is such a great example because it literally is this melting pot of cultures from around the world and people with different experiences. And I think all colleges and universities are like that. Increasingly high schools are like that, and the high school networks around that. And so I think that it's incredibly important to integrate that level of critical thinking about the good and bad of technology and the good and bad of people using technology. But what's amazing is that think people are coming into those experiences with or coming into those environments with so much more experience. And so I used to think of college as a place where people who didn't know a lot of things would go to learn about the world. And what's really true is that college is a place where people who have so many experiences about the world are coming together. High schools, other gathering things, even online. You can do this on a Facebook group or Reddit, subreddit or something like that. There are people with so many experiences there, and reach out to those people, find ways to understand sort of what's working for them, what's not working, what are they seeing, what are their peers seeing, what are their younger siblings seeing, what are their parents seeing, and you start to build this really rich network to help make things better. And I think there's so much opportunity to use this technology for good.
Thank you so much. It's really important for us to make sure that both we know how to use the technology, we know the power that comes with it, and for others to also get the resources and to get the support needed for ensuring the safety, the security, the protection, and so that it's not beneficial and not pose a challenge or a threat to our well-being too. So with this, if there's any questions here, please raise your hand or comment. Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Okay, hi. My name is Velvita. Thank you for mentioning online violence. I am a gender advocate. I have authored two books which help teachers in schools to sort of identify um, what the signs are for especially girls in vulnerable communities who are facing forms of violence. And the other one is pretty much an activity book for young girls, just sort of to pick up the signs and learn about violence, in their own language. And I'm interested. I mean, I really like the conversation about how the online space has sort of evolved and has thrusted us, into a sphere where we literally have no control over how we either communicate, retract information, fact check, all of that. And it's getting harder with time, and even worse now when people can just go live and people can record that live, and before you know it, it's in tons and tons of places. So people, and so especially with young girls, there's that reticence with how to sort of approach the online space, because especially in sub-Saharan Africa, which you should know very well, to be honest, the penetration rates, especially for internet, are still low. And as much as we're trying to bring access and bring technology and bring computers and change the, should I say, the pedagogy to sort of include those, there's still a, should I say, cultural barrier, and parents are sort of afraid of having such conversations. And it makes it really hard, because as much as we want more girls to be in tech spaces, to speak about their issues on these platforms, it's a lot more complicated. And I'll just take this opportunity as an advocate that I am, especially, well, by the way, today's my birthday. Thank you. And actually, I'm going to go live with I'm just going to show you, it's a bunch of stickers. So I'm very big on sticker communication, and I know that there's a non-verbal part of how we communicate. And I love to use stickers, by the way, but these are specifically going to be sort of like stickers that allow you to communicate about the violence that you're facing, because we noticed that when we go to have these conversations, the girls can't really say much, and it's just like a one-time conversation or a one-time moment that you have to say that this is about this happened. And I don't know how to ask you the question, right? So how do I ease that conversation is what I was thinking about. So pretty much the stickers, I know, especially in conversations, is my, should I say, my own way of understanding how to integrate, like technology into having people actually become more verbal about certain things without necessarily saying those things, even if it's hard. And I'm just wondering, if there is an opportunity areas for people who are sort of like activists or just working in such spaces to use different forms of technology just to create conversations and collect data, because I feel like that's one of the things that we struggle with. We can say that it happens, but when we don't have the numbers, it's harder. So I'm looking for, well, I'll just openly put it out there, because this is a baby project, but I'm really looking forward to work with people who are interested in driving such conversations and using technology in a fun way, really, that can help us to drive change, especially for people who are experiencing violence.
Thank you. Yeah. That was great. It would be great for you to share the baby project for everybody here, that you're welcome to share any actions, any entrepreneurships, any projects that you have. We're open. IYC is an open platform and welcoming to receive all of these so that we can also share. So thank you very much. That will be our time in the panel. We have to introduce now the presenter for this time period. For Aunali, no, wait, sorry, the names, international diversity and everything. Sorry, Aunali Rupani, thank you so much for being here, and claps, please. For us, we are going to step out of the stage, and at the end, we will close the session and take a picture and everything, but we will have around 20 minutes for the presentation to begin. Thank you so much.
Better? All set? You guys can hear me? So I'm really grateful to Ali Mustafa, Ruby, and everybody else who made this possible, especially my co-panelist who spoke on a very wonderful point. They spoke that technology is an enabler, definitely, but also happens to have a dark side to it. And they discussed the dark side in detail. And we got some good participation on that point. Even education has a dark side to it. And not many people have the courage to come forward and talk about it. Right? I am going to do that today. Before I begin, I would first like to acknowledge the single most unifying factor among all of us, the source of energy, which is common between all of us. So divinity in me bows to divinity in all of you. As you can see this AI image on the screen, we generally as humans try and find the fault outside, but generally the fault lies inside. And the picture demonstrates that if there's dirt on your face, no matter how many times you clean the mirror, there's going to be no change. And the education system and the technology both are double-edged swords. If you don't know what you are taking forward, you may land up subtracting value. So please raise your hands if your battery is more than 50%. Amazing. So my question was, if your battery was more than 50%, okay? Not the mobile phone battery. So we are not taught how to charge our own battery, right? It is because we are not self-aligned. To get self-aligned, you need to understand three faculties: mind, body, and soul. So let's make an attempt today to align ourselves in quickly 2 minutes. We'll do a small breathing exercise with 5 reps. Okay. Countdown going from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. When we breathe, we'll inhale, hold our breath, go deeper, and then exhale. And every time we do that, we go deeper, deeper, and deeper. And in the last one, hold yourself, hold your breath on the last one till I tell you to open your eyes. Okay. So come on. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Inhale, hold, release. Go down deeper. Inhale, hold, release. Inhale deeper, hold, release. Inhale, hold, release. Inhale, hold, release. Slowly open your eyes. This is called self-alignment. As humans, we are made out of 5 elements: hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus. We need to know our chemistry first. We talk about green chemistry, we talk about renewable energy, but this very human body is a perfect example of green chemistry, perfect example of renewable energy. We produce that energy within us for all the activities that we do, but we do not acknowledge this energy. Just recall, when did you recall yourself, when did you acknowledge this energy within you? Did you ever say thank you to this energy? Do you ever identify yourself with this energy? It's an interrupted source. But this is not taught in our schools. So the next step is to self-integrate. Now, we generally live our knowledge. We never live our habits. And the next thing that we need to do is integrate ourselves. So we acknowledge the power within us. We self-aligned ourselves. Now the next step is to integrate. Until unless you don't integrate, and this integration is a habit. So how do you form this habit? It's very difficult. It's not easy. So I came up with this idea of coffee drinking. So when you're drinking a coffee, it generally takes you 5 to 8 minutes to consume that coffee. That liquid that you take inside is generally 60 degrees Celsius, warm enough to wake you up from inside. So when you take this coffee next time within, just ask your subconscious, how do I add the highest value in the next task that I'm going to take up? Right? And you keep doing this, keep asking yourself, build this habit. How do I add the highest value? And in no time, it will become your habit. And you will be the most value adding person. And tell me, guys, what's your aim in life? If you become the most value adding person, won't you be successful? Isn't this a secret for success? Let's move forward. When we are talking about divide, the biggest divide that we have today is creator and creation are 2 different entities. This is the biggest divide that we have in our mind. I've listed down the 7 different divides in a particular order, where the denominator keeps increasing and the fraction loses its value. So you see, right from beginning, the discrimination starts. Boy or a girl, the gender discrimination begins. Beliefs. Age. At energy level, my friends, neither you are young or old, male or female. You're just a source of energy. Right? So there's no discrimination at that point of time. And age, race, nationality, these are all given to us. We haven't selected them. The last of it is the formal education that we go through. And let's fathom the fact that this divide is created in the mind. And so far, the mind remains the master. This phenomena will exist. Mind is a powerful processor capable of self-destruction. And I'm sure the stress and depression that we go through proves it. And at worst can become the single most reason for extinction. So we have to find some solution. And that solution is right within us, but we are not able to tap it. I'll cover that point. So what does formal education give us? They really don't care that we are unique, creative, and a masterpiece. All they want is to become robots so that we can give high output, not question the system, follow a pattern, and just continue the way we are. But we are born unique. We are born creative. We are a masterpiece. No two drops of rain are same. No two fingerprints are same. Yet we keep producing robots after robots. Certifications are given, degrees are given, and we become standardized products. There is a little bit of humor on the slide, but I don't think I have the time right now to cover that joke, so I'm just moving forward. But what does a formal education actually do to you? It definitely improves your capacity to store knowledge, your megabytes, but does not improve your processor, the megahertz. Okay, and we are already fighting a battle now with AI and generative AI, which is your left brain has already lost the game. Until and unless you don't bring your right brain in the game, you are out of the game. Okay, and your real processor is your medulla oblongata, and we don't know how to operate it. We've heard about this in our biology class, but we don't know how to process our own processor, and we want the best output in this life. So the formal education does not teach you how you operate. It will teach you how the world operates. And we are oblivious about the self-alignment, self-integration. And if these two things don't happen, social integration does not happen. So if you want to be socially accepted, you have to first align yourself, first integrate yourself. As a result, we have deficiency in love, care, and respect. We have been never examined for ego, ethics, or compassion. Formal education predominantly prepares you for only job creation, which is a modern day slavery exercise. Okay? So let's see what formal education has offered us so far. We've been talking about great universities. The US has over 35 top universities in the world. Let's see what happened. College students who never read another book after they graduated the studies indicates 33 to 42% of people in the study have never read a book after they graduated. Is this the kind of education we're offering? About 130 million, one third of the people are below the grade of sixth grade. One third of the population in America, where you have the best universities. 3.6 million students get scholarship valued at $14 billion. Yet 2 million students dropped out of high school in 2020. Let's look at who's making the money. The top 5 universities put together have 155.9, almost $156 billion in their kitty. And what they do to students? The students have to pay 180% more in college fees. Okay? They should be reducing fees, right? 44.7 million students are borrowers of student loans. And that loan amount is $1.71 billion, trillion dollars. Even the word trillion didn't come to me. Can you imagine what are you doing? You're creating so much of pressure on the students just because they have to intake some formal education through you. And what do you think? If these guys who have taken the loan, the 44.7, I'm only talking to the US right now, okay, which is the best country in the world. Do you think these kids are going to be stress-free? They're going to be compassionate, ethical, with the student loan on their head. You know, there's a study that says the highest amount of white collar criminals, the contribution has come from the Ivy Leagues. That is what they are producing. And we have to step back and think. So this is just a light slide where, you know, I've taken my exam on ethics, compassion, and love, and, you know, I've rated myself, and, you know, sad learnings. You see these guys, very intelligent people, really up there, highly educated, but they've all done some stupid thing in their life, right? And we know their stories. We're not going to cover their stories. We know they've done stupid things. So if you don't know who in you is leading what in you, you are going to land up, somebody else is going to land up leading you. That is your greed, fear, or your ego, right? So you really need to know who in you is leading what in you. This is my favorite slide. You know, you guys have heard about Challenger Deep? So Challenger Deep is a point in Western Pacific Ocean, which is deeper 1.5 times than the height of Mount Everest. So we all have superficial knowledge, but we don't know what runs within us. Okay? That's how ignorant we are. So our education system has failed to transform us, to make us into deep thinkers. Let's see what Einstein had to say. Education is not the learning of facts, it's rather the training of the mind. And we just spoke about the darker side of technology, where we cannot even process whether what has been served to us as a consumer is a fact or a fabricated data. We spoke about AI and generative AI. The seeds of hatred are served every day. Resultant is conflict, violence, and war. So our society offers us three things: false sense of superiority. With these certifications and these admissions, they make you feel superior. Okay? And pseudo intelligence and pseudo independence, packed in pride. So you take a lot of pride in these things, right? But they are all pseudo. So this is the quote I came up with. There was this guy, Francis Bacon, in 15th century. He said, "Knowledge is power." And I thought, no, knowledge is no more power. We have lots of knowledge. The students know more than the professors today. And that's a reality. That is a reality. So knowledge was power. Okay. Now, how to operate that knowledge has become power. Right? And AI is a clear example. So let's see this. What are you taught from childhood? That you are a separate entity, independent, separate entity. I'm sorry, we are all interconnected and interdependent. That you are the human uniform. No, we are the energy source that runs this human uniform, not the uniform. That we own things. We don't own the very body that we live in. It can be taken away in a second. That you have limited resources. No, my friend, you have unlimited resources. Once you tap to that power within, the entire universe is yours. I've already covered this point. That your mind is your master. Now, this is the biggest flaw. This is the first step to correction. Your mind has to be your slave. So almost 85% of your character building happens at the age of 6 and 7. And, that's where we need to focus on. That's where the quality of education has to put in. The character education has to be put in, so that people are more compassionate and we become better human beings. Very quickly, I went through 3 bankruptcies. First was emotional bankruptcy. When I lost my parents, the only thing that I learned from there was that you have to anchor within. The second was the financial bankruptcy that I went through, and I didn't accept the bankruptcy. I paid to the last penny. What did I learn from it? That we don't own the human body. And the most important point for success is trustworthiness. You can easily bounce back from any situation if you're trustworthy. The third bankruptcy that I went through is self-esteem, and people question you what you do, how well you do, and what did I learn from it? It only accelerated me towards the purpose, and there's a tribe in Greenland, Alaska, and Canada, where a person or a friend who helps you open your inner doors and gives you the reason for happiness and joy, he's termed with something, and I'll tell you later in the slide. So work on your weaknesses, because you will break from the weak point only. And don't work on your strength, work on your weakness first. I'm going to be a little quick with my presentation. So the biggest problem that the youth faces today is stress and depression. So if you're rowing a boat, imagine you're rowing a boat against the stream, you're against the current, you become the doer. You have to put in extra energy against it. In 2 hours, your muscles are going to pain, and the result is going to be stress. And if you want to relax, you're going to go back again. So there's a fundamental design. If you row your boat against it, you are going to be in stress. Stress is an indicator within to tell you that you're going in the wrong direction. Okay? And that stress point is gifted to you. So when you follow and you take a U-turn and you follow and try and move in the direction of the current, what happens? The current gives you become the catalyst. You are not the doer. Whatever you do, little accelerates. You're not tired. You enjoy the journey. So my friends, if you feel stressed, just change your action. Just think back and change your action, and you'll be stress-free. So we've been gifted 37 trillion cells, 37 trillion cells. And if one cell comes within, which has its own agenda, okay, which is called a cancer cell, it can take down the entire body. We humans have actually become cancer cells because of our own unethical behavior and selfish agendas. Let's see what Einstein has to say about this. A person experiences life as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. So what are we supposed to do? Our task must be to free ourselves from this self-imposed prison, and through compassion and find the reality of oneness. Now, this has just happened 2 weeks ago. This is the change that is happening on the ground now. The boat is turning, and this is your opportunity to get onto that boat. Nobel laureate Kailash Satyarthi convinced 43 education ministers to introduce compassion in schools as a subject. You will be taught compassion in school so that we can become better human beings. It's coming. And it's only possible through compassionate actions, compassionate intelligence, and compassionate leadership. Now, my friends, what did Einstein have to say? Why did you have to go through compassion? Going through compassion would lead you to a reality of oneness. And there is nobody, my friend, who's not talking on, or who's talking on oneness. Have you heard anybody talk on oneness? Yeah, thank you. So there's one gentleman called Ratanjit Sondhi. He's very much an American, and he spent his entire life on writing on oneness. I recommend heavily that you go through his content on Discover Oneness Foundation. And this is going to be the moment. This is how the history is going to be created. If you access this content, you understand this content, and you be in oneness, that is going to be your serendipity moment. So my friends, look out for this gentleman and his content. His content is available absolutely free for you. When I met him, he transformed my life with three lines. All he said to me was, never glorify the truth. Live the truth, and truth will glorify you. He also said that there's no seniority among lit candles. Take the message, live the message, and forget the messenger. And he's writing a book called The Sins of Education. And he's been very kind. It's not published. I've used certain of his slides. And he was very generous to do that. And the point that he wants to make here is the sins of education. So in the worldly education, you know how society thinks and works. You know how social and man-made laws are. You learn language, culture, human behavior, laws, socialization, etc. You also know how the physical universe works. You also know the operating of the laws of the universe, the working of the science, medicine, and technology. But what you don't know is how you operate, how you self-align, how you self-integrate, how you socially integrate, and what is the psychology of the universe. So look out for this book. It's going to be out in no time. And the last promise that I had made, that the friend who helps you open your inner doors and it gives you an experience of happiness and joy, that person in the Greenland tribe, you know what is he called? He's called Aunali. That's my name. That's where I truly found the real meaning of my own name, and that became my purpose of life. So you could be that Aunali to a friend. You could open inner doors for your friends and provide that inner happiness and joy. Go become Aunali. So we're all one. And thank you so much for your time and attention. And you can't end without gratitude and credits. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It seems I'm the only organizing team member here. So we're planning to start our youth-led regional session on North America at, I believe, 4:45, perhaps 4:30. So until then, if you want to go on a quick break, mingle with each other, network, that would be great. Or questions. Okay, I will go around the room. I saw you first.
Yes, I actually have a question regarding the agenda.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So, in our agenda, we still have the transforming education discussion panel, which we didn't have a chance to have. So we were supposed to have it upstairs so that before, and they told us to come here to the main room.
Okay, I will go figure that out. If anyone has questions for our wonderful speaker, then oh, please. Hold on, let me just.
Here, upstairs.
On oneness, yes. As I shared yesterday in ceremony, an elder named Don Cohis, who's Mohican, spoke about the world. He said, life is only 5% seen, and it's 95% unseen. In my journey, I have learned and surrendered, and there is great power in surrendering to Source. In this walk that I have been on for about 20 years now, in the surrendering of Source, I've been in ceremony and in sacred runs and in training. Source has spoken to me at times, many times. I'll share only a couple with you. In a time where I'm so one with the wind in running, I become one in the nothingness of self. A voice of Source spoke and said, if you don't go within, you'll go without. Later on in ceremony, in another run, I look to the clouds as I'm in the wind and become the nothingness. And two clouds appeared, a form of a white eagle, above one a form of a cloud of a black eagle. And the voice said, to be no one is to be one with all. To be nothing is to be all things. I am not finite, for I am infinite. I am not anywhere, because I am everywhere. I spoke and said, then I choose not to succumb to the overwhelming of life, but I choose to live and to love in the overflowing of life. There is the unseen world that lies within us. greater than that of what it is we've seen in this physical form. Chief Phil Lane from the Lakota people calls this the earth suit. In a shower, Source spoke to me in water and said, when is humanity going to come out of its cocoon, to become the oneness, to see yourself as the butterfly, the rainbow colors on your wings? I was shown myself in this way. And I was told, take the time to dry your wings, because when the time comes, you must soar. This is what it is that we are here for. Transformation is what butterfly means in spiritual meaning of people and culture. Thereby, the underlying subtle power that lies within is not in the internet, but lies in the spirit net within. Thank you for the graciousness of allowing me to share word and heart.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Is the stream on? Share it. Okay. Go ahead and share that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Those concerns.
You're starting in how much time?
No?
Now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let Ali know.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll diffuse on your view. We can just have it full screen. Either way is fine. So by what time do we have to end?
What time do we have to end? Kelly, what time do we have to end?
4:30, but you can move on to like 4:45. 4:45.
Okay.
Okay, it's on. All right, is the stream on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everyone. So we are running a little bit behind on schedule, so we are going to start the next session immediately. My name is Derek Chen. I'm a member of the organizing team, and I'm also the moderator for this session. And the title of this session is Transforming Education, the Path Towards Inclusive Learning Environments. And our speaker today is Miss Bernadette Pineda, and she is a PhD, a postdoctorate fellow at UCLA. So without further ado.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Bernadette Pineta. So excited to be here with you all today. I recognize that you all have been sitting down and in sessions. So if you just want to get up real quick, do a quick stretch, get some movement in your body. This is going to be a very interactive session. So want to make sure that, we start recharged, ready to engage in discussions. All right. I'm going to move a little myself. I had to drive through LA traffic. So, if anyone has dealt with that before, you know how it can be. All right. So just a little bit about me. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I actually went to UCLA for undergrad. I majored in political science. I minored in education. Then I pursued my PhD in education and psychology at the University of Michigan. And my research looks at how can we create learning spaces that affirm young people's identity, specifically their racial and cultural identities, and empower them to be civic agents. I also want to start with the UCLA official land acknowledgement. So as a land-grant institution, UCLA acknowledges the Gabrielino Tongva peoples as the traditional land caretakers of Tongvar, which is Los Angeles Basin, as well as the Southern Channel Islands, and are grateful to have the opportunity to work for the indigenous peoples in this place. And we pay our respect to our ancestors, elders, and our relatives, both past, present, and emerging. But I also have to say the tensions that I feel with this land acknowledgement, recognizing that UCLA has not recognized or acknowledged the role that they're playing in the occupation, displacement, and violence enacted by the Palestinian people, by Israel, and how hollow these words can ring when UCLA is encouraging the surveillance of and violence against our students. And so today, I really want us to reflect on our own schooling experience, interrogate the narrative surrounding schooling and learning, and envision what liberated learning and educational spaces can and should look like. But before we start, just want to get a better sense of who's in the room. And so I'm going to put this on. I realize I'm going to need my laptop. So feel free to take out your phone, scan that QR code. You can also just text for 223 and send the message 37607. Thank you so much. And I just want you to share, what gifts are you bringing into the space? Maybe it's your creativity. Maybe it's your energy. What are you bringing? And I'll read them out loud as they come in. I see courage, confidence, ear, curiosity, listening, excitement, open-mindedness, hope. Love it. Love to see these words. Diversity, passion. And so as our word cloud keeps, generating, we're seeing a lot of different words. I wish I could share it on screen. See some desire, some better, tenacity, energy. Okay. So, I'd like you to keep these in mind as we engage with one another. Like I said, this is going to be a very interactive workshop. I know right now I'm talking a lot at you, but there's going to be times when we're going to work together. I'm going to ask you all for your thoughts, and would love to see you use this space and build it as much as possible. And so with that, I want to go to the next question, which is establishing ethics of care, right? So I'd like you to submit 1 or 2 guidelines. It's up to you. You could just do one that will help us engage with one another in this space, that allows us to build community in ways that are both caring for one another, but also accountable to each other's learning, right? That's what we came here to do, to learn from one another, engage together. So just take a moment. And again, I'll read these out loud as they come in. Throw glitter, not shade. Love that one. Not only hear, but listen. Trauma informed. Discipline, okay. Loving these. Giving room for understanding. Non-judgmental. Vegas rules, I love this one. So it's shared here, stays here. So maybe 1 or 2 more, and then we'll move on. Open-minded. So yeah, engage with each other in ways that are open-minded. All right. And respecting one another. So with a partner, so with those around you, I want you to share your name, your pronouns. If you're in school, what grade are you in? If you're not in school, maybe your role. And I want you to think about, do you like school? Why or why not? If you're not in school, did you like school? Why or why not? And then what were some of the memorable interactions you had with adults in those schools? Thinking about, were they positive? Were they negative? And how did they impact your views on school and learning? So I'll just give you a few minutes to do that with the people around you. And don't be shy. Feel free to chat it up. Did they want us to end at 4:45?
I think so. Yeah, he said
Okay.
go up to 4:45. I'll do my best. I can ask Kelly right now.
Yeah, just double check. I will do my best. I might have to skip through some things, which is fine. I just need to be very clear.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. I'll find Kelly now.
Okay. All right, take like one more minute. If you haven't shared yet, switch. All right, so let's bring it together. Sorry, that was really loud. Does anybody want to share out their experiences with the group? Hey, y'all. Hi. Does anybody want to share out and kind of, either if they liked school, why or why not? Maybe some memorable interactions that they shared out about. Yeah. All right, everyone. So Lydia is so kind to start us off and is going to share her experience. So let's give our full attention.
Thank you. For me, I've always loved being in school. I was pretty much raised in foster care my entire childhood, so it was always a safe space for me, a place where I felt seen, heard, fed, recognized. So my experiences with school have always been positive, and as a case manager at the Children's Law Center, it's something that we encourage our clients to do. But sometimes along with that, education isn't a priority, and just depending on the person, it's either trying to find housing, trying to be a good parent, trying to access resources in whatever capacity that is. So as much as I'm an advocate for school, I acknowledge the fact that it's a privilege and it's not something that might be a priority for others. So that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Does
Thank you.
anybody else want to share out? Just raise your hand and we'll bring the mic to you.
Hi. My name is Dr. Amay Singh. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm out of school now, but we were talking about, I think similarly, we had mixed feelings about our education, where I'm speaking for myself growing up, I did well, but I went to school to socialize. And so I think teachers kind of dismissed me for that reason. And, as I went for higher and higher education, I had educators that were much more invested. And so, that helps the self-esteem, that helps, you believe in yourself and everything. And so I think my relationship with education, I love being a student, but it also really depends on who's in the room with you, both as like who the teacher is and also who your classmates are.
Yeah, definitely. Does anybody else want to add before we move on? So one of the things that like I heard as you all were saying is this idea of being loved, supported, right? That definitely makes a difference in our education. I know for me, my K through middle school experience was fantastic. I had teachers who really loved me. But then when I went to high school, if you weren't in an AP class, you weren't treated as the cream of the crop, or you weren't supported. And people, if you were in a regular class, teachers didn't think you were going far. So how you experience school can vary, right? Is your school well resourced? Who are the teachers in the room? How is the school racialized? And so it's really here that I want to root and locate schools within systems of oppression, right? We know historically, for example, boarding schools. In California, there was the California missions that tried to assimilate by literally stripping the culture of the indigenous people that were here. More recently, we've seen a slew of anti-LGBTQ bills that are impacting children, families, and schools. We also see this in terms of trying to ban critical race theory, but with that, anything that covers race and culture as well. And of course, the increasing criminalization for youth who are protesting against the genocide and trying to speak out and dissent against these things. And I want to say, and I've highlighted some of these systems in different colors that come up, right? Racism, homophobia, classism. But of course, these aren't all the systems. And so Iris Young talks about the different faces of oppression, and she highlights 5. The first of which is exploitation. And this is where communities are being used for their labor, but they're not benefiting. And so you can think about the cobalt mines in Congo, where people are being exploited, but they're not benefiting from this labor. Violence being enacted in folks, marginalization, where this is where people are being pushed aside. I think a lot about Puerto Rico and my parents' native country of Guatemala, where particularly on the coastal edges, the most beautiful places, people are being pushed out for resorts and more tourist Airbnbs. There's also cultural imperialism, where what we consider as what we're striving for, what's dominant, is usually the people in power. So you could think about, for example, mainstream media. How much of a fight was it to have representation in the Marvel universe, right, through Black Panther? And so those are things that start to become the norm. And you could say, for us, in the global context, it's white, middle class, heteronormative expectations. And the last one, I've changed it to internalization. Iris Young uses the word powerlessness, but the reason why I use internalization is because it's when people who are being oppressed start to internalize and assume that, these structures that we see today are inherent, right? That they're not being made. Rather, there's something innate and there's something wrong with them because of how they are, what they look like. I usually bring up the example of when I was little, I used to draw self-portraits. I used to draw myself with blonde hair and blue eyes. And if you look at me right? That's not what I look like, but I had internalized whiteness so much. And so with the group, I want you to discuss how you've witnessed, if at all, the faces of oppression within schools. And this could be in person, social media, or maybe through stories other people have shared with you. So again, just with the people around you, take a moment to discuss this question. And so I'll just give you all 2 minutes because again, time crunch. Take 1 more minute. All right, start wrapping up the conversations. All right, so we're going to keep going. I also want to say that while schools have historically been rooted in a lot of injustice, learning is a form of resistance. Bettina Love covers this in her recent book, Punished for Dreaming. And in one of the earliest chapters, she talks about how Black teachers and Black schools before Brown v. Board of Education provided a learning opportunity for Black youth that was loving, that was caring, and really rooted in their success. We also know from critical scholars such as Paulo Freire, right, that there's ways that we can engage in education that emphasize experiential learning and encourages us to reflect on our experiences through dialogue and build what's known as this collective critical consciousness. So it's an awareness of the systems, right, that are impacting our daily lives, our opportunities, and the experiences we have. And so popular education really goes against this idea of a banking system. Just by raise of hand, has anybody heard of the banking system before? Okay, so I see a few hands. So for those that haven't heard about it, it's this idea of treating students as empty vessels. And you have a teacher and a lecturer in front of the room who's just dropping knowledge, and students are expecting to soak it up. Popular education switches this and has us think about youth as having their own ideas and their own lived experiences as valid forms of knowledge. And it encourages people to really think about how they can come together to change those systems of oppression. And so I won't spend too much on this, but I just wanted to highlight that when we focus learning as a form of liberation, it changes the learning outcomes that we expect for young people. This includes a positive ethnic racial identity, so having a positive sense of self and their community, a sense of empowerment that they can change their personal, community, and social conditions, and they feel a sense of purpose and a sense of hope that, yes, they recognize that these structures of inequity exist, but they are changeable. Okay. And so now I just want to transition to how can we educate from a frame of resistance rather than oppression? And so for this, I turned to a recent article called A Radical Doctrine, Abolitionist Education in Hard Times. And this was created by Dr. Demaria C. Dunn, Alex Kisholm, Elizabeth Spalding, and Dr. Bettina Love. And it establishes a sense of principles needed to rebuild schools based on radical joy, radical trust, radical imagination, and radical disruption. And so when we're talking about radical, right, what is that definition? What does that mean? And it really means getting down to understanding the root cause. And recognize that you're facing a system that doesn't really care to your needs, right? Thinking about we live in a capitalist society. So that's the main, I guess the bottom line is always that bottom dollar, right? Can I make a profit? It's not how can we help young people. And so you see this in schools being privatized, right? And so how can we divest from that system and how can we make a change? And according to Bettina Love, abolitionism is a pedagogy that actively works towards radically reconstructing and reimagining the prevailing educational model in the US. And it's devoted to intersectional racial justice in and beyond the classroom through civics education, community coalition building, and critical theory. And so I want to just give you all a moment. If you scan this QR code, it's going to take you the principles of abolition teaching by Dr. Love. And again, we don't have too much time, so I just want you to look through it. And with the people around you, think about what principles are resonating with you as you're reading this list of abolitionist teaching principles. Take one more minute. Few more seconds. All right. So does anybody want to share one of the principles that resonated with them? Sorry, gonna go again. Does anybody want to share one of the principles that resonated with them? All right, so we're gonna keep moving. So now we're gonna go into, there's 4 dimensions or 4 principles that are highlighted in the radical doctrine of abolitionist education in hard times. And the first of which is centering radical joy. And this allows us to look at the pain and understand the suffering of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people of color, while centering their submersiveness and their efforts to not only survive, but thrive. And we see this, for example, in the children of Gaza, who are creating a makeshift swing to still enjoy childhood, to play. And so you think about schools, right? And so I want you to think, maybe you've been in that classroom where, maybe you're giggling, chatting with your friend, and they're like, shh, no, don't do that, right? So we want joy to be the norm in schools. Schools must also take the effort to repair trust that has ruptured between communities, having operated as a vehicle for colonization and white supremacy. And this requires schools and educators to engage in anti-racism action. And the way they do this is, again, having a critical eye for the social effects of race. We recognize that race is socially constructed, like a Monday or a Wednesday or a Tuesday, but they have real impacts on our lives. Also taking the time to engage in racial reflexivity, to understand our racialized selves and how that impacts our day-to-day and the opportunities we're provided, raising up people's awareness of racism, having a hopeful distrust of traditional institutions. So this means recognizing that, institutions haven't always operated on good faith, but there's hope that we can still make a difference. Having an asset view of disenfranchised communities, so seeing folks for their strengths, and having a spatial analysis of recognizing that we're more than just individuals, this is also a global scale. The third one is radical imagination, and this requires new ways of life grounded in equity, inclusivity, healing, and resistance to dominant ideologies, and really rethinking what is the purpose of education and what is the roles of schools. And so again, we see this with young people organizing different forms of learning. And somebody had mentioned in the beginning about how they were, I think Lydia, right? You mentioned about this schools meeting your needs for care. And so a lot of people shared that in Day Camp, it was a space where they could feel community, get fed, right? There was a lot of kitchens, time for rest, as well as for care. And finally, this idea of radical disruption. So recognizing there's no reform, there's only abolition. And so rethinking, right? We need to keep students safe, but we know that having police on campus, right, can really affect their well-being. And so, what are new ways that we can think about caring for each other and caring about each other's safety without resorting to the criminalization of young people? And so, for what we're going to do is I want you to do in groups. So, join with the people around you. And I want you to design your own dream schools. I want you to write the name of your school in a mission statement. I want you to consider what and how are students learning? What centers and resources will you have available to students? And how are you attentive to the radical doctrine principles of radical joy, trust, imagination, and disruption? And so we have, those large Post-it notes. So once you have your group, feel free to go get a Post-it note, go get a marker, and start working on this activity. Okay, sorry. I know that was probably terrible, but thank you. How's it so far? Thank you for passing out the. Yeah, I'll wrap this up at like 3:50, so a quick debrief, and then yeah, so we'll be done by 5. Okay, don't worry. Take 3 more minutes and then we'll come back together. Take one more minute. All right, everyone. I'm so sorry to cut the activity early, but does anybody want to kind of share a little bit about their school, what they were dreaming of? Okay, let's go. Does anybody have the mic? Thank you. Yeah, it's your stage.
Okay, all of us were extremely inspired by this activity, and I only wish I could attend Flourish Academy. Woo! Starting here at IYC 9. So, the mission is to build confident and communicative youth from across the world. So we have so many awesome resources for the youth. We have a diversity center, diversity and inclusivity center. We have a well-being center. We have a silent study area for those studious folk. Public speaking class. Obviously, I could use that. ADA resources, very important to us to help promote that inclusivity. Legal rights and responsibilities courses. We think it's super important for youth to be exposed to that at a young age. You never know what situations you'll encounter. Basic needs center, so making sure that youth have access to food, money, mental health, and other such resources to help them in their day-to-day. Life skills classes, so teaching them, really like basic things like cooking, sewing, building, fixing cars. I know even at my high school, we had an auto shop, and I wish I took that because I spend way too much just to change my brakes. We want to connect with local organizations and businesses to expose the students to, what they could be or maybe what they don't want to be. But also, showing them real life, jobs and careers. And then lastly, but very important, interdisciplinary classes so that students are exposed to a diversity of subjects, not just your math, science, history, English, but also, different types of art, business, law, the healthcare system, etc. So this is Flourish Academy.
Thank you. That sounds awesome. I wish I was a student at Flourish Academy as well. All right. So like I said, we have a hard stop at 5 and it's 4:57. So we won't get to see everyone else's schools. But
they can post it in the back. So
yeah,
that
like if you want to post it in the back, that way we can all see it as we're leaving the room, see all the amazing schools that you all had set up. But I just kind of want to have some time to just debrief the activity. We're not going to answer all these questions, but if anybody just kind of wants to share their response to one of these questions. So either how the activity helped them understand the type of learning environment they value, if there were things that they kept from their school, or what are you all taking back with you?
So hello all one more time, and thank you for the informative presentation. My name is Bermed. I am from Central Asia originally. I am not from here, and I came here for my master's, and I can tell the difference between the education systems in Central Asian countries. That would be post Soviet Union countries, pretty much all of them, and like developed country education system. And for me, the most important part I'm taking with me is that I do appreciate the quality education without the compromising mental health. And we were working on this as well for our school too. And I think that the regular testing system should be reconsidered because it usually leads to cheating in a lot of cases where students just want to have a high grades, and that's the only number they're like looking for, and compromising their really attempts to gain a new knowledge. So that's the mainest and I think really important insight for me today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alice. Upon this activity, I thought about it. What is a dream school? I'm living my American dream. I came when I was 12. I'm an immigrant from Asia. A vastly different experience. What I experienced is a reverse affirmative action, which was not talked about. So I took it into my own hands. I homeschool my children ages 14 and 17 from birth because so I offer them opportunities. I facilitate their education so they can just not work with quota, but on merit. So this is what the current system still is. But I want to share with you all, there are school choices. Independent study, apprenticeship, homeschooling, private school, public school. It's available and make good use out of it. And this is part of my voice for the youth. Thank you.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for participating, for coming out. I hope you have a great rest of your time here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sign out. I just want to log out and then.
Okay. Hello, everyone. As we are setting up for the next session, I would like to invite and to challenge all of you to perhaps move your seats around and sit next to someone you don't know already.